call order the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority Board meeting, Board of Commissioners meeting. All right, all rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next agenda item is we're going to review and approve the agenda as presented. Any comments on the agenda? Or motion to approve?
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as presented to us today.
All right, motion by Commissioner Woods.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Diggs. All right. Oh, 1 second.
Are you all in?
All right. Everybody's logged in? Okay.
So the motion was by Commissioner Woods, the second was by Commissioner Diggs.
All right.
Did the vote pop up?
No, it didn't pop up.
Give me 1 second, I'm sorry. Should be okay. I do not know why that's not popping up. We'll probably have to do a verbal all in favor for whatever reason, something's
All right.
not right with this. Okay, but the motion was made by Commissioner Woods.
Motion made by Commissioner Woods, second by Commissioner Diggs. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it. All right, the next agenda item is the review and approval of the.
Oh, there goes the vote. Okay.
Nope.
Sorry.
Okay.
There it is. Sorry
All right.
about that.
Sorry, with some technical difficulty. All right.
And Commissioner Diggs. Is it popping up? Is it? Did you hit? No, it's not.
It's not popping up.
I'll hit. You
Or
did
the
for you.
sign.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
All right, yeas have it. Motion passed. All right, the next agenda item is the review and approval of the PHA plan hearing minutes from the March 25th, 2025 meeting. All right, do we have any comments or motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the minutes for the PHA plan revision public hearing of the Board of Commissioners.
All right, motion. Commissioner Woods move to approve the PHA plan hearing minutes. Do we have a second? All right, second by Commissioner Joseph. Cast your votes. All right, motion passed. Yeas have it. The next item on our agenda is the review and approval of the board minutes from the regular meeting on March 25, 2025. Any comments? No motions?
It doesn't happen. There you go. I was just waiting to see if someone else was going to do it. All right.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Diggs, second by Commissioner Woods. Cast your votes. All right, motion passed. Yeas have it. Our next agenda item is public comments. We'll go over the floor for public comments. When seeing none,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to move on to the next agenda item? Okay. So the next agenda item is the review and acceptance of the financial reporting of February 2025.
And Vice Chair Bailey, can I have the floor?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Vice Chair Bailey. Good evening, Commissioners. While we intended to have a presentation from a representative from our fee accountant, 76 Strategies, Mr. Paul Rogers, we will have to reschedule that to a future meeting. There was a little bit of a miscommunication on the venue of the meeting, but I wanted to make sure that we were able to review and accept, the board would be able to review and accept the February 2025 financial report. We did receive the March 2025 report on yesterday, but as it was not in time for this meeting, we'll include that and the April 2025 report for your review and acceptance at the May 2025 meeting. I am working with Mr. Rogers and 76 to determine whether he will be in attendance for the May or the June meeting, and I will let the commissioners know as soon as possible. And in your financial reporting this month, we have included among the low rent and the Section 8 financial reports, the MENAR projection on page 30. Based on the budget and projected operating expenditures, there is a Q1 2025 MENAR point score estimate of 11 out of 11 and an overall projection of 5 scoring for this fiscal year of 25, which are the total points possible. So that is as of the end of March 2025 as it relates to the FOS scoring, which the MENAR is a part of. On page 29 and 71, we've included a new report for the operating reserves estimate for both the low rent and the Section 8 program. These will be new monthly additions to the report to allow the board to keep track of expenditures within the specific month that the report is being provided, expenditures over the fiscal year against the budget, and projected reserves for each program. And that's on page 29 and 71, 29 for low rent, 71 for the Section 8 program. And as an advisement, these projections are going to be a month behind when monthly reports are current, just to make sure everybody's again aware of that. On the low rent side, maintenance expenses are the only category where we see a deficit due to a few very big projects that we've undertaken, namely the boarding up of the Hanville property and the repair of the fencing at the Boutique property and other expenses tied to making ready units. We also did purchase 2 new vehicles to replace the 2013 trucks that we had in our fleet. And the HCV projection takes into account the impact of the shortfall status from the beginning of the fiscal year, which is why the projections show a loss even though we are currently out of shortfall status, because there was actually a month within the fiscal year where we did not receive any HAP funding. Lastly, on pages 102 and 103, I have included the ELOCS breakdown. This breakdown looks at all of the different past grants and fiscal years that have been recorded in the HUD LOCS system. And any grant with a book, just as an advisement, any grant with a book next to it is considered closed out by HUD. We would like to point your attention to the Capital Fund Program listing that has a flag next to it. That indicates a grant where, for reasons that I am actually still working to determine, the funds were not obligated to a specific expense before the obligation period expired, which actually prevented us from drawing down all of the grant. We did, however, draw down the mandated or the minimum requirement of 90%. But if you view this breakdown and past breakdowns, we have drawn down almost all of the funding available to us. To give you an example of our increased vouchering, on December 10th, 2024, we had an available balance in ELOCS of $2.1 million. And as of April 16th, 2025, we have an available balance to draw of $840,605. So we are now in a position to voucher a percentage of that balance every month to ensure that we are meeting the ELOCS HUD requirements of timely vouchering and drawdowns. That is the extent of what I have to report on the financial reporting. If you have any questions, I am here to take them.
Also, Chairman Webb. Chairman Webb has now entered into the meeting, and he can also take over the meeting as chairperson if you would like.
All right. And
thank you, Commissioner Bailey. I appreciate that. Where are we at in the agenda right now?
the number 8, review and acceptance of the financial reporting for February.
All right. At this time, we'll review and accept a financial reporting for February 2025. Do we have any board discussion? Mr. Woods?
Yes. Looking forward to 76 being here when they can, and I understand what happened with that. Some questions that I'm going to save particularly for him, but I wanted to point out some good things in here, and you did point out one. Page 30, I was really pleased to find that in there. That it not only just talks about the MENOR, but there's a quick ratio and there's even a debt service ratio, so that's good reports to have in there. Not saying I understand it as it's presented, but that's why Mr. Rogers will be here next time to get those things to us. I think that's going to be it. I think most of my questions are going to be directed to Mr. Rogers, so I'll just wait until they're here. But I would say that I like what I saw. There was some good information in there that hadn't been in there before. So looks like we all headed the right direction. So with that, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woods. Any further board discussion? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to accept the financials for February 2025? Mr. Bailey?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the financial reporting for February 2025.
Mr. Bailey has moved to accept the financial reporting for February 2025. Do we have a second? Ms. Diggs has seconded. Please cast your votes.
Commissioner Joseph.
All right, that passes unanimously. Thank y'all. All right, Mr. Jackson, you have an executive director's report for us this evening?
Yes, sir. Thank you again, Chairman Jay and Commissioners. We hope that everyone is doing well on tonight. And we thank you, the Commissioners, our residents, and our stakeholders for their support and their guidance of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority. In your board packet tonight, we have the March 2025 low rent report, which can be found on page 106. And I'll go through that briefly. For the month of March, we collected $12,155 total in rent. Of the 45 lease, we have 45 as of March 31st, 45 units leased, 14 vacant that we are working to make ready. Of the 14, 5 are ready for move-in, and we're in the process of getting those units leased up between now and the beginning of the month of May. We still have the units at Des Allemands, the 7 at Boutique, and the 51 at Hanville that are currently on mod status. And we did receive confirmation that our request to continue it's not going to be fire casualty because we actually got a vendor selected, so it's on mod currently. Unit 254, which is the unit that caught fire on last year, and we are in the process of we actually had a pre-construction meeting with the vendor today, and I'll go a little bit more into that in a second. We issued 6 delinquent rent notices for the month of March. Our waiting list is down to 268 applicants, but We are waiting on the populated list from our advertisement that went out at the end of March, from March 21st to the 23rd. So we didn't have any waiting list letters go out for March, but we did have 3 work orders completed in a timely manner for the month of March. And on page 109 and 110, I have included, as I've done the last few months, a breakdown of the repair plan for vacant units. And this is being done not only for the commissioner's awareness and how we're working to address the vacancies, also for local HUD field office. That was a request from our previous rep, Andy, but also to let everyone know what our plan is for each respective unit that has to be, or that is in a position to be made ready. Included in your packet today, we did have I'm sorry, one second. To go back to Unit 254, there was, after our last meeting, there was a formal challenge filed by one of the vendors that responded to the solicitation. We received the challenge the evening of the meeting. After the meeting was completed, I confirmed receipt of the challenge and also followed up the next day with answers to the questions that were posed in the challenge, and ultimately ended up making an administrative decision that the challenge was not, or had no basis. The vendor that submitted the challenge appreciated the clarification and decided to drop the matter once they got that in writing. So we are moving forward with Guaranteed Restoration Services. They are in the process of gathering and creating, or preparing rather, the insurance documentation to ensure that we are included as additional insured. And they have reviewed the agreement and have agreed to the terms. We're just waiting for the paperwork in terms of the insurance so that we can issue the notice to proceed. They anticipate beginning work within the next 2 weeks, and once that unit is done, we will work with local HUD to revert it from mod status back to vacant, so that we can be in the process of leasing it up. We did meet with Danina, and we have been meeting regularly with Danina. She is our new rep with the HUD field office, and she's working with us right now to revert the units she actually approved the fire mod unit, and also is working to revert the units that were on mod pending our conversion back to mod. And I think working also to revert those units in a way that those vacant days don't count against us, because we were asked to withdraw our SVC application. Beginning on page 111 through 113, we have begun to include completed work order documentation for the board's review. We will ensure that that's done every month as requested previously. And also from page 114 to 130, we are including a new quarterly component. It won't be in every meeting packet, but it will be in the meeting following the end of a quarter, to show our Inspire pre-inspection logs of each unit, to ensure that deferred maintenance is not as big of an issue as in past years, and that we can stay on top of unit condition. So the worksheets that were done mirror the Inspire inspection logs that we did our actual pre-inspection process with prior to last year's on-site inspection. So we're hoping and trusting that that will help us keep our units, like I said, in livable and reasonable condition for our residents. Lastly, on the low rent side, I do want to make the board aware of an error that was made by our team in turning over one of our units. We are working to address the concerns of the resident that was affected, and I will go into further detail in correspondence to the board, but I cannot comment on it here because of potential human resources issues and concerns. But I just wanted to make the board aware that we are working to address a concern of a resident where one of the units that we were turning over, and there was an error made. So I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of that. And I will follow up again with correspondence as it relates to that matter. The next report that we have is the March 2025 HCV report, and that's on page 132. I will go through that report for you all as well. So for general activity in our HCVP program as of March 31st, we had three units searching port outs. We are currently paying 5 port outs between 3 local municipalities in Louisiana and 2 in Texas. We have received billing for 13 port ins. We did have 2 EOPs in the month of March. We received, we made payments in the amount of $255,663.64 out of our HAP, and we had HAP income of $282,562.42. So just to let everyone know, we are off shortfall now, so we are in the process of processing names from our current wait list. We did have 8 potential voucher holders that are in the process of eligibility processing, 10 voucher holders that are currently searching, and we have 2 new landlords added to the program. We are currently at 251 vouchers leased up with 10 voucher holders searching. The March 2025 VMS report was submitted timely but was not available for this board packet. We will include that in the May 2025 board packet, but the February 2025 VMS report has been included in your packet and can be seen on page 135. As an update regarding our previous shortfall, we are working to establish a few cost-saving measures upon advisement from HUD. And if the board has any questions about this now or in the future, to determine how this would work, but working with our landlord community to freeze the any requested rent increases until further notice. That is one of the biggest issues that occurred and that caused the shortfall nationwide in terms of actually the increases of the rental of raising rents. So that is something that HUD advised us to do, and we will work with all of our landlords. We do have to provide 60 days notice to them, but we'll work to address any concerns that they may have prior to us putting something like that into place. And HUD has indicated that we'll be able to do that. And again, like I said, we'll work with the landlords to make sure that they understand how the process will be undertaken. And also, we will continue to limit the issuance of vouchers only in situations where there is an EOP, an end of program. And we will keep the board aware of those changes and track how they affect our financial viability for HCV. The biggest warning that I think we got from HUD in that conversation was, you're off shortfall now, but you don't want to go back on it, so you have to be mindful of the least amount of vouchers versus your budget authority, and how we have, hopefully we'll see an increase next year, but how we report VMS or have reported VMS previously is kind of what has limited our budgeting authority. So we'll work, again, like I said.
When you say limiting our budget authority, help me understand.
The need. So when we submit the VMS reports, and ultimately the RMP report at the end of the fiscal year, that determines what we receive the
So if we leased up everything is leased out, then more money.
Right.
Okay.
But the problem, so here's the double-edged sword with that. We currently don't have the budget authority to lease every voucher up.
Okay.
So that would, if we leased every voucher up, we would be in a significant deficit.
Yes.
So that it's kind of like a darned if you do, darned if you don't type of situation. But when we met with Renee in the local HUD office, the financial consultant for the local HUD field office, we expressed a concern that is something that's being held against us for not leasing up all of our available vouchers. Yes. But if we do that, we will definitely run a huge deficit. Right. Yeah. So we have to work to have accurate reporting, and which we're doing now and on schedule to do going forward, but also understand how each voucher affects us and the bottom line.
Okay, thank you.
We do have 3 board resolutions being considered tonight. The first being a resolution authorizing the advertisement of our 5-year plan, our fiscal year 2025 annual plan, and our 2025-2029 capital fund action plan to ensure that our public hearing, our board consideration, and our submission occurs before the deadline in July. And we're doing this today. This is for your consideration today because the advertisement must run for 45 days in our office, on our website, and through the Herald. The second resolution to be considered tonight is to codify a rent and repayment and receivable policy. We had a recent instance where it was discovered that rent was collected but that receivables were not posted in a specific time frame, which caused a correction to the current fiscal year financial reporting that created the delay in the board receiving the March financials for the month. So once we identified the issue, we worked with 76, and 76 made the adjustments for that March report. So this policy seeks to ensure that the residents, the staff, and the board understand the process by and which rent is collected and posted to their account in our property management system. The third and final resolution involved the creation of an agency sexual harassment policy. I was told that there was one previously created, but unfortunately I could not find a record of it. And it did come up during our audit, and I wanted to make sure that this came before the board as soon as possible as an essential human resources best practice and concern. And as an FYI, an updated personnel policy and the disaster recovery policy will be coming before the board in the next few months. We anticipate receipt of the final audit report from Mr. Estes within the next week. In reviewing his draft, we do seem to have a reduction in findings from our FY23 report to our FY24 report, but I cannot state that with certainty until we receive the final report from Mr. Estes. And as a note from the commissioners, while we most certainly we'll be meeting our HUD audit reporting requirements and have a timely submission for the first time in several years, due to a number of factors, the report to the state legislative auditor was not submitted timely, as it was due on March the 31st. We have been placed on the legislative auditor's delinquent list, but once we receive the final report from Mr. Estes and it is submitted to the legislative auditor, we will be removed from that list. And as I mentioned last month, overall, Mr. Estes was pleased with the performance of the agency in the last fiscal year. And while I want to qualify that statement by saying we don't know what the final report will indicate, there were no critical concerns communicated by Mr. Estes during his visit and subsequent emails. And we will continue to update the Audit and Finance Committee and the Board of any updates as they become available. Lastly, Commissioners, the Budget and Audit Committee held a meeting on April the 15th where there were no action items but advisement on 3 topics. The first being the delinquent reporting to the legislative auditor, the rent payment and receivables policy, and the pending retirement benefit resolution. The retirement benefit resolution is due to a previous finding from past audits which indicated that our retirement benefit offering was insufficient and did not address the real cost of retirement for our employees. And that resolution will come before the board at our May or June meeting so that by July 1, we can begin a retirement and benefit process that aligns with the civil service evaluation and annual raise process. And those items were discussed, and we did have resident attendance. Commissioner Joseph was also there as well. And with that, Commissioners, that concludes my report. Please let me know if you have any questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Jackson. Are there any questions from any of the commissioners? Mr. Woods.
Yes, on these policies that we're going to be discussing, is this updating policies or just policies that we didn't have in place? Is why we're doing that? They weren't not in place. Is that why we're doing it? It's going to lead me to circular. Be honest with you, where I'm going with this.
According to the information that I have, we do not have a rent collection and receivables policy, nor a sexual harassment policy. I looked for it.
I couldn't remember sexual harassment.
I couldn't find it. We do have practices that we undertake to address training for to prevent sexual harassment in the workplace. But the actual policy, I could not put my hands on it, and I did a search in our records, and I could not find it, unfortunately.
And where I was going with the thought was, because we know we just had a consultant in, and we spent $200,000. We spent some money to get this done, and that kind of caught my thought. Like, if we're updating, that's one thing, but if we just don't have the policy, and we just had somebody assisting us with that, that kind of just triggered something in my brain there.
I remember getting something from that firm. There were, I think, 20 policies that they were working on, and I think they were able to complete 17 of them. So they did address a good number of them, but those ones specifically, were just in sometimes you respond because things happen. Sometimes you try to preempt it, but those two specifically have come up within the last month as being needed and not able to actually pull and produce.
And I do like that as you're discovering things, you also come with corrective actions.
Yes,
so I do appreciate that as you discover things, you're still pretty new on the job, haven't completed your first year yet, but you are coming with corrective actions with things as you are discovering them or they come up. We do appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Jackson, thank you. Any further questions from the board? All right, seeing none, our next agenda item is our resolutions. At this time, we'll open for public comment. The time is 6:36. Seeing no one present for public comment is closed. Our first resolution before us this evening is Resolution 25-04-22-01. I believe it's 151.
Thank you.
Yes.
Right, we have a memorandum regarding this resolution. Purpose of the memorandum is to provide an overview of the proposed fiscal year 2024 annual plan. Should that be 2025? On the memorandum?
Double check. Yes, it should be 2025. Yes.
Purpose of memorandum is to provide an overview of the proposed fiscal year 2025 annual plan for St. Charles Parish Housing Authority. The authority is a public housing agency established pursuant to Louisiana law, whose mission is to promote adequate and affordable housing, economic opportunity, and a living environment free from discrimination. Committed to the authority's mission, the staff is continuously working to improve services, strengthen operations, and implement sound policy. The fiscal year 2025 annual PHA plan and the Capital Fund Action Plan for 2025 to 2029 provide a ready source for interested parties to locate basic PHA policies, rules, and requirements concerning the PHA's operations, programs, and services, including changes to these policies, and informs HUD, families served by the PHA, and members of the public of the PHA's missions, goals, and objectives for serving the needs of low-income, very low-income, and extremely low-income families. This resolution would allow for the authority to revise and advertise its plan for the statutorily required 45-day period, culminating in a public hearing and subsequent review and consideration by the board of the revised plan for submission to HUD. Actions required. Approval and adoption of this resolution by the Board of Commissioners is required for revision, advertisement, public hearing for, and consideration of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority's 5-year plan, the fiscal year 2025 annual PHA plan, and the Capital Fund Action Plan for 2025 to 2029. Staff recommends board approval and adoption of the proposed resolution to ensure St. Charles Parish Housing Authority's compliance with HUD regulations regarding Public Housing Agency 5-year annual and Capital Fund action plans. Is there any board comment regarding Resolution 2504-2201? Mr. Woods.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 2504-22-01, a resolution of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority Board of Commissioners, approving and adopting a resolution for the advertisement of a 5-year plan, the fiscal year 25 annual plan, and the Capital Fund Action Plan for 2025 through 2029.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Woods has moved to approve Resolution 2504-2201, approving and adopting the resolution for advertisement of 5-year plan, fiscal year 2025 annual plan, and capital fund action plan for 2025-2029. That's been seconded by Commissioner Bailey. Please cast your votes. All right, that motion passes. The undersigned, being the duly elected Secretary of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority, hereby certifies that by written consent, following resolution was duly adopted, whereas the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority is a public housing agency established pursuant to Louisiana law, and whereas the mission of the authority is to promote adequate and affordable housing, economic opportunity, and a suitable living environment free from discrimination, and whereas the authority, as dictated by HUD federal regulations, must create and revise its 5-year plans, annual plans, and capital fund action plans to clearly communicate its operational goals and objectives for the short and long term. And whereas the authority is dictated by HUD federal regulations, must advertise its draft 5-year fiscal year 2025 annual and capital fund action plans for 2025 through 2029. And whereas the authority and its Board of Commissioners wishes to authorize the 45-day advertisement of its 5-year PHA plan, its fiscal year 2025 annual PHA plan, and its capital fund action plan for 2025 to 2029, and allow for a public hearing on the revision of the plan and consideration by the Board of Commissioners to allow for submission to HUD and to ensure compliance with HUD regulations. Now therefore be it resolved that the resolution to authorize the 45-day advertisement of its 5-year PHA plan, its fiscal year 2025 annual PHA plan, and its capital fund action plan for 2025 to 2029, and allow for a public hearing on the revision of the plan and consideration by the Board of Commissioners to allow for submission to HUD and to ensure compliance with HUD regulations is hereby adopted. The above resolution was read in full, roll was called on adoption of the same, and the vote was unanimous. Our next resolution before us this evening is Resolution 2504-2202, a resolution of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority Board of Commissioners approving and adopting a resolution for the creation of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority rent payment and receivables policy. Again, we have a memorandum before us this evening to provide an overview of the proposed resolution, to approve and authorize resolution for the creation of the rent payment and receivables policy. The resolution will allow for the creation of the following policy governing St. Charles Parish Housing Authority rent payments and receivables. Rent payments and receivables policy created April 22nd, 2025. Purpose to establish clear guidelines for the collection of rent payment and to ensure that all rental income is received in a timely and efficient manner. The scope of the policy is to apply to all tenants and staff involved in the management of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority property. Policy statement: rent is due on the first day of each month. All tenants are expected to pay their rent in full and on time as per the terms of their lease agreements. Late payments may incur fees, and consistent late payments can result in eviction proceedings. Staff involved in the management of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority properties must provide receipt of payment, post the receivable record into the property management system, and ensure timely deposit of money order payments to the low rent bank account. Procedures: 1. Rent payment process. Payment methods. Acceptable forms of payment include money orders and online electronic payments. Payment location. Payment should be made at the designated office or via approved online platforms. Receipt issuance. A receipt must be issued for all payments received. This can be provided electronically or in paper form. Any paper receipt must be kept in duplicate and a copy retained for agency records. Due dates and grace periods. Rent is due on the first of each month. A grace period of 5 days will be allowed, not including the weekend, during which no late fees will be assessed. After the grace period, a late fee of $25 per St. Charles Parish Housing ACOP policy will be applied to overdue accounts. Late payment notification. If rent is not received by the 6th of the month, tenants will receive a reminder via hand-delivered past due rent notice. A second notice will be sent if rent remains unpaid by the 15th of the month. Number 4, collections and delinquency. Accounts that remain unpaid after 30 days will be considered delinquent, and eviction proceedings will begin. A formal delinquency notice will be sent outlining the total amount due, including any late fees. Payment plans. Tenants facing financial hardship may request a payment plan. Requests must be submitted in writing and approved by management. Payment plans must be documented and signed by both parties. Record keeping. All payment records must be maintained in a secure and organized manner, both digitally and in hard copy. When rent is received by money order, receivable must be posted to the tenant's account in the property management system before the close of the business day that the rent is received. Online payments must be posted to the tenant's account in the property management system by the 5th of each month or upon receipt after the 5th. Monthly reports on rent receivables should be generated to monitor collections and delinquencies. Number 7, dispute resolution. Tenants who wish to dispute charges or payment records should submit their concerns in writing to management within 15 days of receiving a notice. Management will review disputes and respond within 10 business days. Conclusion. The rent payment and receivable policy and procedure is designed to promote timely rent collection, timely receivable posting, transparency, and fairness in dealing with all tenants. All staff members are expected to adhere to these guidelines and ensure compliance. Action required. Approval and adoption of this resolution by the Board of Commissioners is required for the creation of a St. Charles Parish Housing Authority rent payment and receivables policy. Recommendation. Staff recommends board approval and adoption of the proposed resolution for the creation of a St. Charles Parish House rent payment and receivable policy. Is there any board discussion regarding Resolution 25042202? Mr. Bailey.
Mr. Chairman, I pass a motion to approve Resolution 25-04-22-02, approving and adopting a resolution for the creation of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority rent payment and receivable policy.
Thank you, Commissioner Bailey. Commissioner Bailey's moved to approve Resolution 2504-2202, approving and adopting the resolution for creation of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority's rent payment and receivables policy. That motion has been seconded by Ms. Diggs. Please cast your votes. All right, that motion passes unanimously. Therefore, the undersigned, being the duly elected Secretary of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority, hereby certifies that by written consent the following resolution was duly adopted. Whereas the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority is a public housing agency established pursuant to Louisiana law, and whereas the mission of the authority is to promote adequate and affordable housing, economic opportunity, and a suitable living environment free from discrimination, and whereas the authority, as dictated by federal, state, and local laws and regulations, must revise its various policies and procedures to ensure compliance and efficiency of process, and whereas the needs arise for the agency to create a policy entitled St. Charles Parish Housing Authority Rent Payment and Receivables Policy, and whereas the authority and its Board of Commissioners wishes to create the following St. Charles Parish Housing Rent Payment and Receivable Policy, the rent payment and receivable policy already read into the record, and all the procedures therewith are duly adopted. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the resolution to create a policy entitled the St. Charles Parish Housing Rent Payment and Receivable Policy is hereby adopted. And the above resolution was read in full. Roll was called on adoption of the same, and the vote was unanimous. Our next resolution before us this evening is Resolution 2504-2203, Resolution of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority Board of Commissioners approving and adopting a resolution for the creation of a St. Charles Parish Housing Authority sexual harassment policy. Again, we have a memorandum before us this evening. This resolution will allow for the creation of a policy governing St. Charles Parish Housing Authority sexual harassment incidences. The purpose of the policy is to outline the agency's commitment to preventing sexual harassment and to provide procedures for reporting and addressing complaints. St. Charles Parish Housing Authority is committed to providing a work environment free from sexual harassment. We prohibit any form of sexual harassment in the workplace, whether it occurs between employees and clients, or between employees and third parties. Sexual harassment, definitions regarding the policy: sexual harassment, unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature, when submission to such conduct is made either explicitly or implicitly a term or condition of an individual's employment. Submission to or rejection of such conduct is used as a basis for employment decisions affecting the individual. Such conduct unreasonably interferes with an individual's work performance or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive work environment. Policy guidelines: zero tolerance. St. Charles Parish maintains a zero tolerance policy regarding sexual harassment. Any employees who engage in such conduct will face disciplinary action up to and including termination. Number 2, reporting procedures. Employees who believe they've been subjected to sexual harassment should report the incident promptly to the supervisor or any designated official. Confidentiality. Reports will be treated confidentially to the extent possible, and the agency will protect the privacy of all individuals involved in the investigation. Investigative process. Number 3, all complaints will be investigated promptly and thoroughly. The investigation may include interviews with the complainant, the accused, and any witnesses. Employees are expected to cooperate fully during the investigation process. Number 4, retaliation prohibited. Retaliation against any employee who reports sexual harassment or participates in any investigation is strictly prohibited. Employees who experience retaliation should report it immediately. Number 5, training and awareness. All employees will receive annual training on sexual harassment prevention and awareness as part of their orientation on an ongoing basis. And number 6, disciplinary action. Employees found to have engaged in sexual harassment will face disciplinary action, which may include counseling, reprimand, suspension, or termination depending on the severity of the conduct. Number 7, external reporting. Employees may also file a complaint with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission or the Louisiana Commission on Human Rights if they believe their rights have been violated. Conclusion: sexual harassment policy is designed to foster a safe, respectful, and inclusive workplace. All employees are expected to adhere to this policy and contribute to a work environment that supports professionalism and mutual respect. Approval and adoption of this resolution by the Board of Commissioners is required for the creation of a St. Charles Parish Housing Authority sexual harassment policy, and it is the recommendation of the staff for board approval and adoption for the proposed resolution for the creation of the sexual harassment policy. Is there any board discussion? Commissioner Woods.
Mr. Jackson, is this pretty much a standard? Do we follow somebody's template that you create this? I mean, this is all inclusive of what we need to have in it,
Yes,
I guess is
yes.
my question.
This mirrors the policy that I've seen in a number of different housing authorities, state and local government websites,
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Woods.
and can be amended as needed in the future if there's something that needs to be added.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Is there any further discussion regarding Resolution 2504-2203? Mr. Woods.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve Resolution 25-04-22-03, a resolution of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority approving and adopting a resolution for the creation of a St. Charles Parish Housing Authority sexual harassment policy.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Mr. Woods has moved to approve the resolution of the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority 2504-2203, adopting a resolution for the creation of a St. Charles Parish Housing sexual harassment policy. We have a second by Commissioner Bailey. Please cast your votes. Okay, that passes unanimously. Therefore, the undersigned, being the duly elected Secretary of St. Charles Parish Housing Authority, hereby certifies that by written consent, the following resolution was adopted. Whereas the St. Charles Parish Housing Authority is a public housing agency established pursuant to Louisiana law, and whereas the mission of the authority is to promote adequate and affordable housing, economic opportunity, and a suitable living environment free from discrimination, and whereas the authority, as dictated by federal, state, and local laws and regulations, must revise its policies and procedures to ensure compliance and efficiency of process, and whereas the needs arise for the agency to create a policy entitled St. Charles Parish Housing Sexual Harassment Policy, and whereas the authority and its Board of Commissioners wish to create the following St. Charles Parish Sexual Harassment Policy, which was previously read into the record, we now therefore be it resolved that the resolution to create a policy entitled St. Charles Parish Housing Sexual Harassment Policy is hereby adopted. The above resolution was read in full, roll was called on adoption of the same, and the vote was unanimous. All right, let's see. Are there any other matters before us this evening? All right, seeing none, do we have an update on the RAD Section 18 conversion update?
Yes, Commissioner Jane, good evening again, Commissioners. The revised PHA plan that was approved at the last board meeting has been submitted to the Public Housing Portal for field office review and approval. Once that is approved, we will begin submitting items to the application on the RAD Resource Desk. I am working right now with a graphic designer that I reached out to provide a quote to assist with the production of a brochure that we can collectively use to advocate for the financing gap from local and state stakeholders. That's based on the information that was provided in Mr. Murray's one-pager. And this material can be used to ensure that we're all speaking the same when it comes to getting the conversion project across the finish line financially. And I will get that material to board members as soon as it's done. Hopefully we'll have this on hand when we are at the LHC Legislative Conference on next week. And that concludes my RAD Section 18 conversion report.
Okay, any questions from the board? Mr. Woods.
That one pager that you talked about for Mr. Murray and the brochure that you're looking to create, will that have the financial picture that our partner standards say here's our financial picture? Okay.
Yes, it's going to have, and I haven't gotten the quote yet, but it's going to have project information, background, the ask, the reason why we're doing what we're doing, and just any other supportive documentation or information that we may need. The commissioners, the listing of the commissioners as well as staff.
And their reports, I know HUD requires us to put a financial packet together, so that's what that's going to be. Something that will be that's so detailed that it will be submitted to HUD also, or
Are you referring to the PHA plan revision that we submitted?
no? Just this RAD Section 8 Section 8 plan. One component of to HUD as a financial report or whatever.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
big one. That's
That
how
was
you
one.
get the approval to proceed with the project.
So Mr. Murray's one pager and your brochure will be the information that we submit to HUD.
No,
it will not that detailed.
It won't be that detailed because basically what the one pager or the brochure will be is for us to market what we're trying to get done to the stakeholders.
Okay.
What we want to make sure of is that when we're asking, we know what we're asking for. We know they know why we're asking for it, and we can support the ask with information.
Okay,
that is purely this is purely marketing, but it's something that I think when, like, to give you an example, when we were in DC, there was a packet of information that every meeting we had with every congressional office we provided. Or there was a packet of information that they were provided. so that they could know here's what we are looking to achieve through this conversation.
Gotcha.
Right.
But in time, the detailed
Oh,
financial
absolutely,
package.
yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Very good.
And that is the sources and uses of funds. That is where that number came from. So that's what that's where that was pulled from to know what we need to ask for as for the financing gap.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Sorry about the confusion.
That's all right.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Bailey.
Yeah, I had this question that I want to ask other development partners. Can we get funds from private individuals? For the gap?
I'm thinking businesses. I'm not sure about actual private individuals, but I mean, I could ask. I definitely could ask.
If we get it'd be interesting to see if we can get funds from private individuals or business entities, and then they'll have to know like what return or why they what return they would get on that money.
Okay.
That way it opens up the percentage of people that we can ask.
I don't know if it would be. I need to find because I don't. I'll find out because I can't speak with certainty. But I feel
if we could just get clarity
Yeah.
on who's able to participate,
Right.
That would be great. Thank you, Commissioner Bailey, and thank you for looking into that, Mr. Jackson. All right. If there's nothing further, open for public comment. Again, seeing no one in the chamber this evening, public comment is closed. Do we have a motion to adjourn? Mr. Woods.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
All right. Mr. Woods has moved to adjourn, and we have a second by Commissioner Bailey. Please cast your votes.
This thing shut itself off.
All right. That passes unanimously. The time is now 7:02. We are adjourned. Thank y'all.